Hello, welcome to Schools Not Out, your daily classroom for CSEC and CAPE students. You can watch this lesson real-time on Television Jamaica's YouTube channel or on onespotmedia.com. We're also live on Music 99 and gojamaica.com. If you have any questions on today's subject, Cape Econ, you can send them into Television Jamaica's Facebook page or Instagram at television_Jamaica. Today's lesson is on market structures. I am Abigail James. Now we want to look at market structures. Now students, I know it's a very long topic and we're going to do as much as we can to cover most of the important aspects of it. So let's begin. So for our objectives today, we want to cover or to explain the concept of market structure. We want to outline the characteristics of different market structures, to distinguish among the different market structures, and to explain the factors that influence the pricing and output decision of firms. Now, can you remember the definition of what a market structure is? Now, I know when I ask this question, students usually say to me, it's how the market is structured. But I want a little bit more than that today. So for our definition, a market structure is looking at the type of competition which exists among firms in a particular industry. It also speaks to the number of buyers and sellers in that market, the level and form of competition, product differentiation, and the ease of entry and exit from that market. So yes, it is looking at how the market is structured, but a little more fullness in definition, we want to look at the characteristics of that market, buyers, sellers, competition, the type of product, and the entry and exit into that market. There are four main types of market structures. They're listed here: perfect competition, monopolistic competition, oligopoly, and monopoly. So they are again perfect competition, monopolistic, oligopoly, and monopoly. So we're going to start with the first one, perfect competition. Now, perfect competition, let me just say straight off the bat, it is the idealistic model of how the market is supposed to operate. The other three, they are grouped as imperfect because they are not perfect. And we're going to look at it in a little while. So some of the characteristics of a perfect competitive market: we have many small firms, buyers and sellers. The product, they are homogeneous or identical. There is freedom of entry and exit of firms, so there are absolutely no barriers to entry. That means anyone who wants to enter into that market, they are able to do so with no restriction at all. And there is perfect knowledge. Now, another important feature of this competition is that firms are noted as price takers. Now, this diagram here represents the industry. So the industry, as we know, or the market, is dominated by the forces of demand and supply. We have our demand curve and our supply curve. And in previous lessons before, we know that when demand and supply meet, then market price is established. Now, when the industry determines the price, because the firms are so small, they cannot influence the price. They have to take the price that is determined by the industry. Hence, they are called price takers. Please note, ladies and gentlemen, that the demand curve for the perfectly competitive firm is perfectly elastic. And last week when we looked at elasticity, we said that for a perfectly elastic demand curve. You can sell any amount of the product at that price, but you cannot raise the price. Hence, back to our previous characteristic of perfect knowledge. It means that consumers are well aware of the price of the goods sold in this market. So, for example, if you go to, I'll just use bag juice as an example. Everyone knows that bag juice is $30 or $20, whatever the price may be. And if you try to increase the price, no one will purchase that good. All right, so we are going to go to a short break at this time, and then we will come back to continue looking at the perfectly competitive market structure.
The Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, along with TVJ, present Schools Not Out, CSEC and CAPE lessons live Mondays to Fridays from 9 a.m. to 12 noon, with weekly Schools Not Out tutorial sessions on Saturdays from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Schools Not Out, live CSEC and CAPE lessons here on TVJ. The Ministry of Education.
Reduce your risk of viral illnesses like the flu and coronavirus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water. Cover your nose and mouth when coughing with a tissue and dispose of it. Avoid close contact with anyone with a cold or flu-like symptoms. If you become ill, please visit your doctor or the nearest health center and share your travel history. The flu and coronavirus can kill. Let's protect each other. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
COVID-19 tip. Protect yourself and others from getting sick by washing your hands after coughing or sneezing, when caring for the sick, before, during, and after you prepare food, before eating, after toilet use, when hands are visibly dirty, and after handling animals or animal waste. COVID-19 tip. Protect yourself and others from getting sick by washing your hands after coughing or sneezing, when caring for the sick, before, during, and after you prepare food, before eating, after toilet use, when hands are visibly dirty, and after handling animals or animal waste. COVID-19 tip.
Youth and Information, along with TVJ, present Schools Not Out, CSEC and CAPE lessons live Mondays to Fridays from 9 a.m. to 12 noon, with weekly Schools Not Out tutorial sessions on Saturdays from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Schools Not Out, live CSEC and CAPE lessons here on TVJ. The Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, along with TVJ, present Schools Not Out, CSEC and CAPE lessons live Mondays to Fridays from 9 a.m. to 12 noon, with weekly Schools Not Out tutorial sessions on Saturdays from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Schools Not Out, live CSEC and CAPE lessons here on TVJ. The Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, along with TVJ, present.
Reduce your risk of viral illnesses like the flu and coronavirus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water. Cover your nose and mouth when coughing with a tissue and dispose of it. Avoid close contact with anyone with a cold or flu-like symptoms. If you become ill, please visit your doctor or the nearest health center and share your travel history. The flu and coronavirus can kill. Let's protect each other. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Reduce your risk of viral illnesses like the flu and coronavirus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water. Cover your nose and mouth when coughing with a tissue and dispose of it. Avoid close contact with anyone with a cold or flu-like symptoms. If you become ill, please visit your doctor or the nearest health center and share your travel history. The flu and coronavirus can kill. Let's protect each other. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Viral illness.
Not out. CSEC and CAPE lessons live Mondays to Fridays from 9 a.m. to 12 noon, with weekly Schools Not Out tutorial sessions on Saturdays from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Schools Not Out. Live CSEC and CAPE lessons here on TVJ. The Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, along with TVJ, present Schools Not Out. CSEC and CAPE lessons live Mondays to Fridays from 9 a.m. to 12 noon, with weekly Schools Not Out tutorial sessions on Saturdays from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Schools Not Out. Live CSEC and CAPE lessons here on TVJ.
Protect yourself and others from getting sick by washing your hands after coughing or sneezing, when caring for the sick, before, during, and after you prepare food, before eating, after toilet use, when hands are visibly dirty, and after handling animals or animal waste. COVID-19 tip: protect yourself and others from getting sick by washing your hands after coughing or sneezing, when caring for the sick, before, during, and after you prepare food, before eating, after toilet use, when hands are visibly dirty, and after handling animals or animal waste. COVID-19 tip: protect yourself and others from getting sick by washing your hands after coughing or sneezing, when caring for the sick, before, during, and after you prepare food, before eating, after toilet use, when hands are visibly dirty, and after handling animals or animal waste.
Hi, welcome back to Schools Not Out, your daily classroom for CSEC and CAPE subjects. We have just got it started on CAPE Econ Market Structures, and we were dealing with the features or the characteristics of perfect competitive market. Now, we were just looking at the reason why firms in this industry are deemed price takers. Now let us look at profit maximization, because this will tell us how price and output is determined by the firms. So for definition purpose, it is a short or long run process by which a firm determines the price and output level that returns the greatest profit. So for the perfectly competitive firm, and with all other firms, we know that profit maximization is achieved where marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue. For the perfectly competitive firm, the price line, the demand curve, the marginal revenue curve, they are the same. And so for the firm, profit maximization is achieved right here, where marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue. Now, for each market structure, we are going to look at the types of profit, but for perfect competition, let us look at how they are making what we call abnormal profit, or supernormal profit. All right, that is achieved when the average revenue is greater than, or the price is greater than, the cost of producing the profit maximization level of output, and this occurs in the short run. Now let me just take you to the board, because sometimes students don't understand how we achieve or how we draw this diagram. All right, So here we have our price and our output and the demand curve for the perfect competitive market. Profit maximization, you put in that point where your marginal cost is equal to your marginal revenue. This will be the level of output that you will produce. Now your average cost curve, that is the curve that you will look at to determine the level of profit. So here, because it is making what we call abnormal profit or excess profit, your average cost must be lower than your price. So we put in our average cost curve associated with the profit maximization output level, take it across. For this example, we're going to call it PC, which is your cost of production, and it is less than your selling price, your market price. So all of this here will represent your supernormal profit or your abnormal profit. Now, normal profit, this is where now your price is equal to the cost at producing that profit maximizing level of output. It's also referred to as zero economic profit, or as we say, you are breaking even. So you are not making excess profit. Now, before the previous slide asks, why is it that the firm will only make abnormal profit in the short run? The reason for this is that in the short run, if they are making abnormal profit, what will happen, because there are no barriers to entry, other firms will enter the market. It will act as an incentive for others to enter into the market, and they will enter until they compete away the profit until all the firms are only making normal profit. So for this diagram, you notice that your average cost curve is sitting tangent to your price line. So there is no excess profit being earned at this point. This will happen in the long run. The firm can make a loss. They call it subnormal profit or a loss. And in this instance, the price is less than the cost of producing that level of output. So if you look at the diagram here, your average cost curve now is above your price line. So your selling price is at P2 and your cost is at P1. And so the difference here shows that the firm is actually making a loss. Let's look at the next market structure, monopolistic competition, and now its features. Now, monopolistic competition, may I just say for right now before we get into it, it's sort of a crossbreed between perfect competition and monopoly competition. So let's look at the features. So here we have large numbers of relatively small firms. The goods here, they are similar with slight differences, and we call that product differentiation. There are low barriers to entry and exit. They are price makers, and for the fact that they have product differentiation, it allows for some uniqueness, and so they are able to set their price for their goods. So for example, I always use this example, toothpaste is toothpaste, but you have Colgate make a differentiation versus Lasco or Aquafresh or whatever it may be. There is extensive knowledge, almost perfect information in that persons are aware of the prices of the goods and they know the substitutes for the goods in this market. Now let us look again at profit maximization and this competition. For this firm, they have now a downward sloping marginal revenue and demand curve. However, the principle still remains that profit maximization will occur where marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue. Again, profit maximization, or where the firm is at equilibrium, is where marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue. That will indicate their profit maximizing level of output. Now let us look at the types of profit and the monopolistic competition. Monopolistic competition will make supernormal profit, again, where price or average revenue is greater than the average cost. Again, this usually occurs in the short run. So, even though the diagram is there, let me just put it on the board and further explain. Downward sloping, marginal revenue curve and demand curve. Profit maximization occur where marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue. However, in this market structure, they do not charge this price, they charge a price that's associated with the demand curve. Because remember, we said some weeks ago that demand represents what? That's correct, the willingness and the ability of the consumer to purchase that good or service. So you take your line, take it across to your demand curve, and this now represents the price that's associated with this good. Your average cost curve tells you your cost per unit. So when we put in our average cost curve, the cost of producing the profit maximization level of output, let us call it PC for cost price, is lower than your selling price. And so this area will represent your abnormal profit. That's how we derive at that diagram. Again, this will only occur in the short run. Reason being, because there are low barriers to entry, this will act as an incentive to the market, and so others will enter into the market and compete away at the profit. And what you will find is that in the long run, in this competition, the firms will make normal profit. That's where price now is equal to the cost of producing at the profit maximization output. A loss, similarly, will occur when the price is less than the cost of producing that level of output. So if you look on the diagram here, you'll see that your average cost curve is higher than your selling price. So at H, this is the cost of producing that level of output, and this is your selling price. So obviously, if your cost is greater than your selling price, then the firm here, under the monopolistic competition, is making a loss. Just a note, normal profit is already included in the cost of the product, so the expected profit is already being earned. Monopoly. Right, we have to move a little quicker. So monopoly, as you know, it is one seller and many buyers. The good that is produced under this market structure is usually very unique and has no close substitutes. And the firm is a price maker, and there are significant or high barriers to entry. Can we think of a monopoly in Jamaica? I'm sure everybody right across the island is bawling out, JPS. That is true. Their product is very unique and has no close substitutes right now. Yes, you're going to tell me about solar. Yes, but it's, not very popular right now, and most of us will not go back to kerosene oil lamp at all. They are the sole provider of the service. They are price makers, but we have things in place like, yes, the OUR, they are regulating their prices. Let's move on. All right. Now, the diagram for the monopoly competition and monopolistic, they are the same. So again, here, if you look, that the profit maximization rule applies again to the monopoly. Profit maximization will occur where the firm is producing, where marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue. Supernormal profit. Monopoly firm is making supernormal profit when the average revenue or price is greater than the average cost. And usually because of high barriers to entry, and some of the high barriers to entry include the fact that they have sole rights on certain resources or government regulation and licenses, the monopoly can make supernormal profit in both the short run and the long run. So again, looking at the diagram here, and pay attention because sometimes in multiple choice, they show you a diagram and you have to determine what profit is being made. So again, profit maximization point is here. The price that is being charged is associated with the average revenue or the demand curve. We look for the average cost curve to determine the cost of producing this level of output. The cost here, as we see, it's very low, and the price that is being charged is high. And so this red block here represents supernormal profit under the monopoly situation. Normal profit, which really never happens, but it happens when the average revenue or price is equal to the cost at the profit maximization level of output. So what you'll find here is that your average cost curve is sitting tangent to your demand curve right where you are also charging the same price. So you are breaking even. Your selling price and the cost of producing that level of output is the same. So you are not making any excess profit. A loss in this situation here, again, you look for your average cost curve. So anytime you see a diagram and you want to determine what is happening, look out for your average cost curve. So in this situation, again, profit maximization point is established. The price of the good associated with the demand curve or the average revenue curve here is at P2. But your average cost curve is much higher. So when you take the curve, your line up to touch your average cost curve and carry it across on your price line, H, you will see that H is much higher. So your cost of producing is higher than your selling price. And so the firm here is operating at a loss. Now we're going to look at the final market structure, oligopoly. Now, oligopoly, it's dominated by a small number of large firms. So they control the market. So it's usually anywhere between 3 or 8. But in terms of the industry and market share, they have a significant market control of that industry. The product that they sell is either identical or differentiated. So in terms of identical products, so they may probably produce raw material or intermediate goods that are used as input by other industries. For example, petroleum, steel, and aluminum. Those products, they are identical. Steel is steel. Petroleum is petroleum. However, only a few of them produce those products. Then you have the differentiated product. So it tends to focus on goods that are sold for personal consumption. What you find is that persons have different wants and needs, and they like certain variety. So for an example of differentiated product would be automobiles. So we have the car industry, we have our Toyota, we have our persons who like Volkswagen, VW, and persons who like BMWs and so on. That's their personal choice. A car, 4-wheel and an engine, and you're good to go. But some, no, I'm an Audi person, or I'm a Bimmer. Oh, I just love the Rush. Whatever. That is differentiated product for the oligopoly. Other features of this market structure is that there are significant barriers to entry, and the barriers can take the form of exclusive resource ownership, patents and copyrights, other government restrictions and preferential licensing and so on, and high startup costs. So sometimes these act as a way of barring others from entering into that industry. And so you'll find again that the market is dominated just by a few large companies. Now, we want to look at the behavioral tendencies of oligopoly. The first one is independence. So what you'll find is that each firm is mutually dependent on each other. They are affected by their rivals' actions. So they watch each other in this industry. So they look at what they are doing. This is the industry where you can find what we call price wars taking place, like in the airline industry. So if somebody dropped their price, you find that other persons drop their price too because of competition. So here I say if a firm changes its price or the amount of advertisement, and advertisement is classified as non-price competition, the sale of its rival will be affected. And the rival now will respond by changing its price or amount of advertisement, of course, to the benefit of the consumers. You have what is called now rigid prices. So most oligopolies tend to keep prices constant. They prefer to compete in ways that do not involve change in prices. And the reason is that competitors are likely to match a price decrease and not a price increase. And we're going to see that this behavior now leads to the type of demand curve for an individual oligopoly. So some terms that you may come across when you're doing your revision is price rigidity. And this describes the shape of the demand curve for the individual monopolistic competitive firm curve. Price stickiness refers to the tendency for prices to remain rigid or fixed under the oligopolistic market structure, even though cost varies. So here we have now the demand curve for the individual oligopoly. The curve shows that the demand curve is highly elastic above P1 but gets inelastic below P1. So if we can zero in here on this diagram here, you'll see that this part of the demand curve is relatively elastic in its demand. And going back to last week's lesson, when we were looking at the elastic demand curve, you notice it was a little bit flat. All right, not so steep as this section that shows the inelastic. Remember that elastic means that they are highly sensitive or responsive to a change in price, and inelastic means that they are not so responsive or affected by a change in price. So here, if firm A lowers its price, then firm B will follow. Hence, the quantity demanded for firm A will not increase as much because firm B reacts similarly and firm A will lose total revenue. Remember that the good that they are producing, they are very similar, if not the same. So if they want to increase their revenue, they are going to drop their price. But because, again, there is a watch and see, and I'm looking at you as my rival, you drop your price, I'm going to drop my price too. So the revenue that firm A wanted to make will not materialize because firm B is going to react similarly. And so because, again, the products, they are similar or just slightly differentiated, consumers Of course, we benefit from the price fall, the price decrease, but they will not get much in terms of total revenue. The second part now is that rival firms assume not to follow a price increase, which makes demand elastic. So, if there's an increase in price, there is a significant reaction in terms of that kind of situation. So we find that if firm A increases its price, firm B will not follow, not going there with you. Therefore, firm A will lose customers and lose total revenue. Reason being, again, because of the type of product, if firm A increase their price, consumers know that firm B is offering a similar product or the same product, and so they will move and shift their demand to firm B, and so firm A will not earn the revenue that they were seeking. Hence why you have the kink in the oligopoly curve. So let's just pause for a little while and answer a few questions. Giving you time to read. The first one: which of the following market structures is characterized by several firms too small to influence market price? Is it monopoly, monopolistic competition, perfect competition, or oligopoly? And I'm sure you got the answer right. The answer there is C, perfect competition. Remember, for this competition, there are several small firms too small to make any form of impact on market price. They are referred to as, that's correct, as price takers. Now let's look at the second question. It says, which of the following is responsible for the kink in the demand curve for the oligopolistic firm? Is it A, rival firms match price cuts but not price increases? B, rival firms match price increases but not price cuts? Or C, products sold by the firms are significantly different? Or D, products sold by the firm are slightly different? And the answer is A, rival firm, they will match price cuts but not price increases. So let's just review. Our definition of market structure. Market structure, it's looking at the characteristics of the market, the number of sellers, the type of goods, and the level of competition. We also established that there are 4 main types of market structures. Do you remember? Yes, they are the perfect competition, monopolistic competition, monopoly competition, and oligopoly market structure. And if you can see the summary table right here, in terms of our market structures, for perfect competition, in terms of number of firms, there are a large number of firms. Ease entry condition, very easy to establish. You ever notice that sometimes you see one person at a stoplight selling bag juice and banana chips, and before you know it, other persons start selling at the same spot? That would be an example of ease of entry. Can't prevent anybody from selling there. And the type of product, it is usually identical, or what we call homogeneous, right? We have our monopoly in terms of number of firm. 1, ease of entry. No entry is possible. And the type of product, 1 product or a unique product with no close substitutes. Then for a monopolistic competition, similar feature to the perfect, there are a large number of firms. Entry is quite easy. And the product type, the goods are differentiated, usually by branding. Oligopoly, few large firms, anywhere between 3 to 8. Type of entry conditions, there are significant barriers there, and the type of good, they can either be homogeneous or differentiated. Just want to encourage students at this time that you continue to work and study hard, even though you are not in a classroom setting. Study hard and keep working at it. You will only reap the results of your hard work. So that's all for today. You can catch a repeat of today's lesson on JNN later at 5 p.m. and in Schools Not Out highlights on Saturday between 1 and 4 p.m. It will also be on video, on demand on onespotmedia.com. Up next, we have CXC English Language with Natisha Lindsay and Shakira Powell Easy. Thank you.
Education, Youth and Information, along with TVJ, present Schools Not Out. CSEC and CAPE lessons live Mondays to Fridays from 9 a.m. to 12 noon, with weekly Schools Not Out tutorial sessions on Saturdays from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Schools Not Out, live CSEC and CAPE lessons here on TVJ. The Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, along with TVJ, present Schools Not Out. CSEC and CAPE lessons live Mondays to Fridays from 9 a.m. to 12 noon, with weekly Schools Not Out tutorial sessions